All right, my next team preview is of the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eagles, the Super Bowl champion Eagles. And this one is just profiles is a little bit easier than most because this is largely the same Eagles team except for on defense. And of course, we'll get to that here in a second. They did lose Mekhi Becton on their offensive line too. Bigger loss, although he's later in his career. And the way that the Eagles' offensive line has been able to, turn over guys is quite interesting. Tyler Sheen, who's a young player, not very experienced, is going to get that spot now at right guard. But otherwise, and we'll get to the defensive changes because they're a little more substantial. This is the same offense, right? It's the different offensive coordinator from within. Some more of this might go on the old head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, which you know how I feel about that guy. If you've ever listened to me in the past, I'm not a big believer in him. I think that the Eagles succeed and thrive and find ways to win despite him most of the time. Should I even mention his name? Anyway, the way the Eagles are still set up, though, this roster, the construction of their 53-man team is still extremely good. I would say still top three in the NFL. Baltimore and Buffalo are right there with them. You might start to hear some more arguments about Denver. Kansas City is obviously in the mix. But in the NFC, hard to name a better roster than the Philadelphia Eagles. The Lions and Packers are getting there too. The Vikings do as well. I mean, that NFC North is rough, which is who they face this season. But stepping back and looking at this team from a historical standpoint, coming off a Super Bowl, we know how hard that can be, right? You are the Super Bowl champs. No one can stop that damn tush push. It's still a play you can make in the NFL. The offensive line is still going to be, if not the best, a top three, top five unit at worst. They still have one of the greatest athletes the NFL has ever seen in Saquon Barkley, who's now with the perfect offensive line to complement his ability. Could have broken the single season rushing record last season, probably, but pulled back. Good for him on that one, I guess, to conserve himself because it resulted in a Super Bowl win, right? Without Saquon, without that offensive line, obviously without Jalen Hurts, too, in the way that he controls the offense, this isn't the same team. But I can also say that Jalen Hurts. When we talk about Jalen Hurts and we talk about the brand of football that the Eagles play, people on Twitter, friends have gotten annoyed by me because I'm not bullish on Jalen Hurts. The guy is a good leader. He's a tough guy, right? As strong as any quarterback we've ever seen. So there's a ton of positive attributes, and he throws a good ball, and he's got some of the best wide receivers in the NFL to throw it to. So it makes life pretty good there for Jalen Hurts. But one thing to note is that the Eagles they were 32nd last season in pass play percentage, right? So an emphasis on running the football, an emphasis on their ground game. Their team centered around that tush push, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts with his legs. So, that's their recipe for success, and it works. If there's a change in that at all, right? If the offensive line maybe is slightly, it's not as good. Landon Dickerson coming into the season a little banged up. The right side a little less experienced now. If there's a regression at all in their offensive line, that's going to significantly affect this team. On top of that, right, we got the hardest schedule in the NFL right there with the Giants. There are no let-ups in this schedule. It's NFC North. It's AFC West. It's extra teams in their schedule like Buffalo. So they just face every team that is very good in the NFL on their schedule, right? Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Buffalo, Kansas City, Denver. This is a terribly, terribly tough. The only team that's left out is Baltimore, right? The Eagles, if they face Baltimore, that would be a real surprise because it wouldn't make sense based on the opponents they have. But yeah, so no Baltimore, but that's really the only team left out of this equation that's elite. So the Eagles are facing everybody this year. Everyone's coming for them. And there are some reasons to believe that there's going to be regression. And we haven't even talked about their losses on defense yet. But offensively, there's not too much to worry about. This was obviously one of the best offenses in the NFL last season. Masters on fourth down, tush push. Really great on third down. rarely turn the ball over, top 5 in most rushing categories, and effective through the pass game every time they needed to be. So credit to Jalen Hurts for that. Defensively, the most takeaways out of any team. There's probably going to be some regression in that category too, and we'll get to more of those defensive turnovers or the turnover on their defense that's occurring right now, which probably will contribute to that. Top 10 in sacks again, although not quite as potent of a pass rush last year. Number 1 in opponent yards per pass, first in yards and points allowed. Top 10 against the run, first in opponent points and yards allowed. I wrote that twice. Okay. Excellent on third downs and in the red zone. So not that the defense was their sole anchor, right? I'm not hating on the offense, but their defense was very, very, very good. And the issue is that they lost a lot of players. Many front 7 players not there anymore. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, a better than you think interior defensive lineman, Brandon Graham, Bryce Huff, Oren Burks, their linebacking crew, the depth of that linebacking crew gutted a bit, right? And this is what happens when you build a roster that's that talented and you're paying a bunch of really high-performing guys. This is, we see this. You can't hold on to it forever. They also lost a few on in their secondary. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, now in Houston. Darius Slay is now in Pittsburgh. Still very talented group, but they got some newbies in there at all phases. For example, free safety Sidney Brown, who didn't play very much last season, is their starter on their depth chart in their secondary. So that's a lot of turnover. If you count that, just those guys I mentioned who are significant losses, that's 7 guys right there who were part of the Super Bowl roster, made significant plays for this defense last season, and are not there anymore. So there's less experience, there's less depth. And although you still got, in my opinion, Vic Fangio is a top 3 defensive coach right there with Spags, right there with Brian Flores. Maybe there's 1 or 2 others, but Vic Fangio is up there. He knows what he's doing. This defense is still going to be good. If it takes a step back, I don't think anyone should be surprised, especially considering the way the Eagles are entering this season with that bullseye on their back, the team that everybody wants to beat because they're the Super Bowl champions. And you can see this team turning into a dynasty with the way they're built, right? So other teams in the NFC are vying for that spot, and they do not want that to happen. And they will bring their best. That's what happens, right? It's what happens in any sport when a team wins a championship. Their opponents bring their best after that. So tough schedule, tough position to be in. They still have an 11.5 win total. There's a reason why that over is juiced. People believe in the Philadelphia Eagles. I can't take the over on that, although I would lean still in that direction. That's how good this roster is. That's how good their administration has been in figuring it out. Yes, even that head coach. But certainly the leadership on the field, the talent that they have in the field, at least at that first level, is still there. There might not be as much depth, but they could still win a lot of games with these guys that have great chemistry now. If you look at their first 5 games, they're pretty rough. Dallas at home, at Kansas City, then LA, I think that's the Chargers, at Tampa, and then Denver at home. Oh, that's the LA Rams, which I would argue that's even a more difficult team to face off. So first 5 games are rough, but it doesn't let up all season. Like I said, Buffalo is in there. The NFC North is all over there. The NFC West is all over there, and their division is pretty tough. I think every team in the NFC East got better in the offseason. Dak is back. Jaden Daniels is for real. And the Giants could be feisty. So not an easy situation for the Eagles, but they are set up for success regardless because of their roster, because of their continuity. I give them a rating of 90. I lean to the over, but I think 11.5 is the perfect number for this team. I think their floor is 8. I think their ceiling is 12. So I can't bet on the over, although I still lean in that direction because of the way this team is built. Like when you match them up against other teams, you still see the advantages all over. Okay. A lot of positive things to say about the Eagles. Gross. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers next.